after the final buzzer. This is where you come for instant post-game reaction.
Oh, hell yeah.
This is Dubs OT.
Can't wait.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
Curry. Back from Peyton. Oh, top three. Let's go. Like he's never left. Steph Curry with 29 off the bench. 1 point game. 47 seconds left. But do they have a stop in them?
Well, as it turns out, the Warriors did have a stop in them, but they needed two, and they couldn't get the second one. And the Warriors wind up losing to the Houston Rockets. 117-116 is the final. Houston gets the job done, and what a return for Steph and Curry at his first game played since January the 30th. 29 points, a game high or team high plus 12. Jabari Smith Jr. ended up being a plus 15 on the Rocket side of things, but unbelievable theater inside Chase Center. And if anybody was wondering whether it was worth it to have Steph and Curry come back, as I mentioned on social media a few minutes ago, I mean, politely, I mean, kick rocks. I actually said FOH, but we welcome you in to Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. A happy Easter to those celebrating today. Warriors lose it. We're at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City, so cheers for this late Sunday. Not typically a 7 o'clock game on Sunday. Those are usually afternoon or at least late, early evening, 5:30 tip-offs, but the 7 o'clock tip-off. And what can you say? I mean, Stephen Curry, how would he look? How many minutes would he be able to play? Would he look like the Steph Curry that everybody's used to seeing? And the answers to all those questions, extremely positive. And look, our guy Kyle Haar was worried about him coming back against the Rockets. And the Rockets were throwing him around tonight in a big way. But I thought Steph physically held up pretty well, looked like he was running pretty well. You never know until the next day or even the next couple of days here, as everybody's going to kind of be holding their breath, I think, in the Bay Area as the Warriors start to work their way toward trying to get ready for the play-in tournament and the game that's coming up here in about a week and a half. So it is Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader in a Steph-filled Warriors sphere for the first time since January 30th after missing the last 27 games. And again, I mean, anybody that was questioning whether or not it was worth it for Steph to come back, even in a Warriors loss that doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot in the standings, I mean, were you not freaking entertained? Were you not entertained? I mean, that alone, I think, makes it worth it. I mean, just a complete game changer. The buzz in the building, the intensity on the floor, just the spectacular shot making both inside and out from Stephen Curry. It truly is a privilege to be able to watch him play. And if you're telling me that we all get to watch him play 3, 4, 5, 7, whatever it winds up being, more games between now and whenever the Warriors go out, or if they wind up winning a couple of games in the play-in tournament to get into a series against Oklahoma City. The bottom line is nobody can tell me, and I've been saying it for a couple of months now, nobody can tell me that having Steph play as opposed to not play isn't just flat out good for the soul. I mean, I don't even care if you're a freaking Warriors fan, for crying out loud. I mean, that was it was just special. And we don't know, because of Steph's age, you know, how many more opportunities we're going to get to watch him continue to play at the level that he, you know, shows himself to still have in the tank. And so ends up being, despite the loss, and we can get into some of the details surrounding the loss, but despite the loss, it winds up being, I think, one of the more memorable games of the entire season, on a night where the Warriors do lose for the 42nd time So they officially will be a sub 500 team for 2025-26. But some optimism, I think, for the Warriors' ability to maybe do the unthinkable prior to Steph Curry's return, which would be potentially to win a couple of those play-in games next week. And they're going to have to win 2 because they're going to be the 10 seed, and it's going to have to be some combination, as we've talked about, of Portland and LA, or LA and Portland, or LA and Phoenix, or Portland and Phoenix, whatever it winds up being. The one thing you know is that number 30, Wardell Stephen Curry, gives the Warriors a shot. And again, we all know that this thing is probably ending at the best case scenario in a first round loss to OKC. But so the hell what? If we get another moment or 2 or 5 or whatever it is, like what we saw tonight, I don't know anybody in their right mind who would say that wouldn't be worth it at this point. So 808 KNBR is the number, by the way, 415-808-5627 to jump in and join the conversation. The Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line is open. The phone lines are open if you want to jump in and join the conversation here as we get things rolling. Dubs OT with JD. Warriors do lose to the Rockets 117-116. But my goodness, the Stephen Curry show on full display as we bring in Kyle Haar in the Daly City studios here to get the show rolling. I mean, Kyle, you were watching it in the studio. It was absolutely electric inside Chase Center. It was like being in a completely different building, in a completely different city, in a completely different universe tonight. As to what we've seen here in February and March and these last couple of games here to begin this 5-game homestand, as the Warriors still have the Kings and the Lakers to come up. But it was just kind of surreal. The energy and the buzz before the game, Steph coming in, win Woody because he was going to be coming off the bench tonight. And then as he so often has done, and we've seen him do throughout the course of his career, he just lights the world up with the ability that he possesses. And again, going up against a Rockets defense that's trying to ragdoll him and all of that, he is a showman. And I've said this for a long time, Kyle. He senses the moment, and some of these shots that he's hitting, like you can feel it, that they're going in because of the buzz that surrounds the environment in these arenas. And we've seen him do it in all of these different arenas. We've seen him do it to the Rockets a ton over the course of the years. They had to be thinking, oh my God, here we go again. Rockets fans, whatever. But we've seen him do it in every building in the Western Conference and a bunch of them in the Eastern Conference. There is just a charisma, a spark, a joy, and of course an incredible talent that Steph has. And it was back. It was on full display. And again, I think everybody in the basketball world, even if you're not a Warriors fan, is better off for witnessing nights like tonight as often as we possibly can. What was it like in the studio tonight, Kyle? Were you going crazy?
It was a lot of ohs and oh my, stuff like that. You can envision, much like the crowd, I'm sure, at Chase. But I think Steph quickly reminded us why he's the greatest showman in basketball. Greatest showman in basketball, and it totally. I mean, we kind of touched on it that Chase Center kind of had a little bit of a dead feeling. These last few weeks, yeah, and the instant jolt and enthusiasm that and entertainment that Steph brings each and every game is remarkable. And even in his 26 minutes, he looked like Steph physically, and the shot making, he looked like himself. And I think that was my big takeaway. There was no setbacks during the game. Yes, they roughed him up a little bit, but he looked like himself.
Yeah, he definitely did, and I thought he held up pretty well. There was a couple of moments in the third quarter stint where it looked like maybe he was running a little bit slower, but there was no noticeable limp or anything that was in play like there had been in the last game that he played against Detroit back in January, where he was moving at a point where you're like, this is just not going to be sustainable for him to continue to try and play and carry this Warriors group, as he was going to have to do in the aftermath of them obviously losing Jimmy Butler. So Warriors lose 117-116. Steph, though, goes for 29 off the bench in 26 minutes. He subbed out late in the third quarter at about 19 minutes. I put out there on social media, if the limit is going to be 25, does he wind up, can Kerr push that a little bit? He pushed it a minute more, ended up playing 26 to try and get Steph in there, because when Steph came back into the game, the Warriors found themselves in a real difficult spot, down 13 when Steph came back, and the Warriors immediately cut into that. They grabbed the lead. The shot making was incredible. The three to put them up to pull them within 115 to 114. Then KD missed the jumper, and then they get the Payton layup on the goaltend to go ahead before Sengun ultimately wins it for the Rockets. But the shot making, the drives, the ability to finish, and he was getting on the officials tonight too at a couple of different junctures. I mean, Steph not known for being somebody that really gets into it, but he was really getting hit tonight, as we knew it would be. And the usual non-Steph whistle was kind of on full display here, but he just puts his head down and he continues to play and continues to just have the 5 of 10 from three, and the degree of difficulty on the shots that he was making. And the last one, had it gone down, would have been right there at the top of the list. But your thoughts on this? 808 KNBR 415-808-5627 as we roll through here. Dubs OT. With JD, Steph, and Seth finally got to play together. Another mini headline from this one as Steph returns and the Warriors drop this one to the Rockets. All right, let's get to the YouTube chat to get this thing going here on this Sunday night as the Warriors lose this one. All right, let's roll through. Kyle, we'll give you the controls, our first installment here of Kyle's Clicks. And again, if you want to jump in on the phone lines, 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Max Lopez chiming in. I think we get a stop in the last possession with Horford and KP, potentially, although KP was not having a good night tonight. He picks up 6 fouls in the second half, 5 of them in the third quarter, and a couple of them like 75 feet away from the basket. The difference in this game, win versus loss tonight, was all the free throws that the Rockets shot basically in the third quarter. That wound up being the difference, is the Rockets ended up with a 37-29 third quarter to extend their lead from 2 at halftime all the way up to 10 going to the fourth. And they basically were able to maintain it throughout the early part and grow it in those first 5.5 to 6 minutes that Steph was out to begin the fourth quarter before he came back in for that final stretch. And honestly, if the Warriors had just stayed out of the penalty, they got into the penalty in the third with about 8 minutes to go in the frame, and the Rockets just absolutely lived at the free throw line in that quarter. The Rockets shot 20 free throws. 20. I'm sorry. They shot. I'm looking at the wrong line there. They shot a bunch of free throws there down the stretch of the quarter. To help them build that lead and basically push what was already a big time effort in terms of their scoring output in that quarter. And a lot of those fouls were Porzingis. There were fouls where, the Warriors, couldn't even get into a defensive possession. They were kind of give up possessions. But yeah, if you have another option there down the stretch, maybe you are able to get that stop. I also think, and I am going to be a little bit critical of Steve Kerr. I know the game and the result is not of the utmost of importance, but I do think the Warriors should have called the timeout after Sengun hit the go-ahead bucket. They did have one in their back pocket there, and so I think they should have used it and set up a play. I know the thinking is that you don't want to set up, allow the defense to be able to set up, especially as a defense that can be as good as the Rockets. But I think the Warriors, only down one, and the Warriors being as good as they are at setting up plays coming out of the timeout, I would have looked to have called a timeout and try to draw something up where Steph is a decoy or he's, the first and second option, but you've got a backup plan if they defend it a certain way. I mean, he and Draymond and others are so good at reading. I mean, they were getting Payton, they were getting the Rockets a lot on cuts tonight. throughout the course of the game. Like I think a timeout would have been the right call in that particular situation. I'm more of a timeout, no timeout off of a miss in that situation. So if you're, let's say the Rockets are up 1 and you have to get a stop, and Sengun misses that shot and you get the rebound and you're still down 1, but the clock's moving and it's off of a miss and you get the rebound, I'm more apt in that situation to maybe not call a timeout. But to me, when they make the shot and you have 1 left in your back pocket, to me, you call the timeout, you get the ball in, you run a play, and you try to do something that can lead to a better look than the Warriors ultimately got, with Steph kind of having the prayer there in the closing seconds, and then the putback that went in ended up being after the final buzzer, and the Rockets escaped Chase Center with a 1-point victory. Good one to get us tipped off from Max Andis. The fans who wanted to shut down Steph, you have to think twice about that. Steph is still electric. Again, sometimes it is. And we've slogged through here in the Dubs OT universe. We've slogged through these last 27 with no Steph and no Jimmy over the better part of the last 2.5 months. And so, I mean, like, sometimes it is just about entertainment and watchability. And look, we all know the reasons why the Warriors, are capped in terms of the type of season that they can have, as far as, maybe having the ability to win a couple of play-in games. Although I think you got to have a little more optimism given the way they played tonight, that they could beat, 2 of 3, I think, pretty beatable teams as far as these other teams in the play-in. I know the Blazers have been a nemesis. The Clippers, don't have Harden. They don't have Zubats. You just kind of never know night to night what you're going to get from some of their other guys. Obviously, Harden and Zubats traded at the deadline, so it's kind of a different look Clippers team with Darius Garland and others, and then Phoenix is a team that the Warriors have played very well against. We've documented as much as Portland has been a nemesis to the Warriors, the Suns have been the opposite. The Warriors took 3 out of 4 against the Suns. And even beat them, shorthanded at different points this season. So, yeah, the fans that wanted to shut down Steph, again, I can understand it, but and the whole embrace the tank and all of that kind of a thing. But again, tonight is just I think a resounding pop to the jaw for those that were kind of hoping. Sometimes it is just about entertainment, and sometimes it is just about the ability to watch something special on a night in, night out basis, because Steph is truly, this is an all-time great player. This is a top 5, potentially to 10 all-time player. And again, maybe I'm biased because I'm blessed enough to be able to go to these games and cover them even on the road and come on and talk to you guys about it. But anybody that wouldn't, I don't know about you. I want to see as many Steph Curry games as I possibly can here between the remainder of my tenure doing this show, the remainder of my life, just watching sports, for crying out loud. So yeah, I'm with you, Andis. Anybody that wanted to shut him down, it is time to think twice. Of course, you don't want him to get hurt. To me, that's the only downside. I could give a rip about the tank and play in and lottery odds. And you know what? I don't think Steph does either. I've told you guys here going back to Wednesday and Thursday, I think there's a case to be made that the veterans on this team pushing that pick out of the lottery makes the Warriors have a little added pressure to maybe move that pick in the offseason for somebody that can come in and attempt to help this team as it truly sets up to be that last dance kind of a season that I think everybody is sort of starting to align with here for 2026, 2027. JAMU 22, Steph is definitely still one of the best players in the league at 38 years old. Dubs without Butler and an aging Dre are not it. No question. And again, I thought Draymond was, Draymond was engaged tonight. That was the other thing that was the big takeaway. And I estimated you're ahead of me there. I thought Draymond was awesome tonight, and you could tell early he was into it. I don't know whether it was KD It was three things. It was KD, it was the Rocket jersey, and it was Steph coming back. And it was, again, a little bit more electricity in the freaking building because Steph was back. And I'm telling you, it was like you were in a different city tonight for the Warrior game. I mean, it was completely different. The electricity pregame, you're down on the court pregame and it's full on the side, on the baseline with everybody watching the warm up as Steph came out early. There people were juiced, people were energized, people were excited to watch this team play in a way that they just hadn't been for quite some time. Because Stephen Curry hadn't been out there. And we talk about 27 games. That's a third of the season that Steph wasn't out there. I agree with the estimate. I thought Draymond was great tonight. He was zipping around early. I mean, in the first 5 minutes, he had a great pass. He had 2 defensive stops, one against KD, one against Sengun. He hit a 3. The Warriors jump out in this one. They're up 13-6 before Steph's even in the game. And then, Steph comes in and was immediately in command. He hit Charles Bassey, the newest Warrior, who got signed today, for a dunk. Hit a 3 late there at the end of the quarter. Warriors are up into that first quarter, 31-26. They wind up down at the half, 55-53. Rockets really end up winning this game in the second and third quarters, as we talked about, and all of the free throws that they had in particular in that third quarter. But, 66-51 in the middle 2 quarters winds up being the difference. But I'm with you. I thought Draymond was really good tonight. 7 points, 12 assists. He was finding cutters. He was finding Steph, a steal, just an energized performance, trying to do the best he could in his time against KD. Draymond has actually, I think, found something here over the course of the last month. I think they've found new ways to use him in terms of, putting him on more wings to defend, and figuring out, combinations to get him on the court with Porzingis. And I think he's kind of figuring out what the next phase is going to look like for him as he moves to what his 2026, 2027 is going to have to look like for the Warriors if he is going to obviously be on the roster, which I do think it's trending much more like he is going to be on the roster. All right, let's continue on here. Steph actually looked awesome, JD. Had KP played a bit better, the Warriors could have pulled this one out. Yeah, it was not KP's night. KP was bad tonight. He had a couple of dunks off the pick and roll, off the pass. And I thought, other than that, it was kind of a miserable night for Porzingis, top to bottom. Ended up being a -10. He couldn't hit a 3. The fouls, again, all in the third, and he had 5 fouls in the third quarter. And then Steve kind of leaves him in, I think, in part, like, hey, he's not playing well tonight. I'm just going to leave him in. And if he fouls out, he fouls out. I'll go back to Bassey. I'll go back to Draymond. I'll do whatever. But, yeah, that was, I thought, as poor a game as we've seen Porzingis have basically in the last month, as we, kind of learn more about Kristaps Porzingis and matchups that he can play well in, matchups that maybe he doesn't play well in. You would think the Rockets would be the kind of a team that maybe he would be a good matchup with, but he was really bothered, I thought, tonight by the skill of Sengun at times, but also by the athleticism of the Rockets, who really were trying to take it at his body at different points. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Let's get one more in the chat, and then we'll get to the phone lines here as we go on Dubs OT here on this Easter Sunday evening, late edition on the Sunday here on the Sports Leader. Joke's on you, JD. Big picture, 1, KP gets pushed a lot under the basket, especially why he takes 27-foot threes. 2, Melton needs more than 6 points. Do not re-sign him. 3, Green yelled at Pods on the last play for not screening. Interesting. I didn't catch that on the last play. I'll have to go back and take a look at that. I did not catch it. Yeah, Porzingis is, again, he's going to be a pick and pop type of a guy. he does play a little soft at times against more physical players, whether they're wings on the drive, whether it's physical bigs, athletic bigs. Like, he is a paint presence in terms of his rim protection and shot blocking. But if there has been a knock on Porzingis through the years, it has been that he can be a little soft. And I thought the Rockets were really intent on trying to test whether or not he was soft or not. Whether or not he was going to be up to the challenge of the physicality tonight, and it wound up being, as we talked about, one of his worst games. Yeah, the 20. He does take some long ones. I will also say that on the three ball, but that's part of his game. And I think the one part of his game that's probably been not there, and more disappointingly not there. I think the rhythm, maybe the conditioning. The legs haven't quite been there. Like, he is somebody that can hit those shots and will hit those shots when he's the best version of himself. But yeah, the 3-point shot is not. I've been impressed with him in the short post. I've been impressed with him around the basket offensively. I've been impressed with him in terms of the turnaround jumpers and all that. But yeah, the 3-point shot has not been there. And again, if there's one knock on Porzingis overall, it's that he can at times be a little bit soft, even as a potential rim protector. Good one there from Jokes on You. 808 KNBR. Let's continue here. Let's get to the phones. We'll do some more chats coming up here, but let's get to the phones. We'll get it tipped off tonight with our pal Danny in Vancouver, who joins us here on Dubs OT on the Sports Leader. Good evening to you, Danny.
Good evening to you, sir. I'm going to go way out on a limb here, JD. Way out on a limb, and I'm going to say that Steph Curry is good. He's a good player. Way out on a limb, I'm going. Hey, I think, in fact, I'm going to up the ante a little bit. I think he has to be in the conversation. I'm not saying he is, for GOAT. I really do now. I mean, just the stuff that he's doing is at 38 is just unbelievable. So I was curious about what you thought about that. And also, I just love watching him play. We're just, like you say, so blessed to watch him play. And, an injury can happen anytime. I mean, look at Moses Moody, right? I mean, he's going in for a layup, and he's out so it can happen anytime. So I don't even
at 23 years old. At 23 years old, on top of it,
at 23, and I'm not saying you put him into. I mean, you saw what happened with Luka, right? I mean, they were down against OKC. I think they were down like 30, and he got injured. But anyways, my point is, injuries can happen anytime, and he's just such a joy to watch. And I'm hoping we'll get 2 more years, but it's going to be, maybe not in our lifetime. We're going to see someone like that again. So I agree with you. I was listening to the pod on Just Dubs, and I agree with you. Next season starts now. And I think it's more important to build momentum now. And the tanking, I just think, is completely off the table. It's been off the table for a while. So I was curious what I know kind of said that, and I agree with that. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, Monty Poole wrote about it too. I mean, it's not in the DNA of Steph. And right. I thought Monty wrote a beautiful piece about it, because it basically was, kind of calling out the fans that are basically, if you wanted him shut down, like, blame Steph then. Like, blame your hero, because he doesn't want any part of it. Like, he wants to come back. He wants to compete. He wants to try to play OKC, honestly, and see if they can't pick off a couple of games in that series. And again, I understand the lack of belief that obviously they can win that series. I mean, I've sat here for 2 months and said, hey, the ceiling is probably, maybe you can sneak in, and then you're probably going to get beaten. You're probably going to get beaten like 5 in that series, maybe 6. If Steph can, pull off a game like tonight, and they wind up, winning it, and then maybe they can get one more along the way. So I thought it was basically just the notion of, don't blame. If you want to blame somebody, blame Steph. And obviously nobody wants to blame Steph, because it's Steph, and he is in that conversation. Whether it's for greatest of all time or top 5 player or or whatever it is. I think we need to see how it ends to kind of go back to that question, before I have more of a firm answer. But I've been inclined to really strongly include him in the top 5 more over the last few years, I think since 22. And, for me, it gets really tough. And, everybody's kind of different based on their age and, different players that they saw play throughout their lifetime. For me, it's Michael Jordan, and it is LeBron. I mean, I do think those two in my lifetime, I think those two are the best two. And I think that's how I would rank it. And then it gets really tricky after that. Like, there are a lot. I mean, I think you could go, I think you could put Steph in a conversation with, Bill Russell, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Tim Duncan, others I'm forgetting that are obvious, choices in terms of greatest players of all time. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who I did as a kid see. I only remember seeing his last season. Was kind of the first year that it resonates with me watching basketball, was when he was 42 and they got swept, and I was an 8-year-old kid and they got beat by the Pistons. Like, I remember that, and kind of like, who's this Kareem guy? But I never saw him obviously at the peak of his powers, but just at the tail end. And there are many others. And so I think, how many names is that? And again, I'm admitting there's a couple obvious ones I'm probably leaving out there. I think we're already pretty close to 10 right there. And it gets really, really tricky, and changing the game. And, I think that obviously accounts for a lot. I think, the MVPs, the finals MVP, the 4 chips, and then we'll see how long he plays too. The 3-point record is obviously, which is going to be something that, I probably at some point will be broken, but I don't know that it's necessarily going to be broken in the next 40 years, because he's going to end up leaving the game. He's going to leave with such a lead. So anyway, I'll let you jump in on that, but
that's okay.
It gets tricky for me after those top 2.
I'm with you. And as I said, in the conversation, I'm not even saying he's the GOAT. I'm just saying he has to be in the conversation. But I will say I think he's the best showman of all time. So if there's a greatest showman of all time, I think he's got to be in as far as one of the most exciting players of all time.
Well, you're right on that. And again, tonight is a perfect example. I mean, I can't tell you, Danny, how many different arenas I've been in over the years covering this team. And he just has a knack for when it feels a certain way in the building, when there is a certain level of electricity in the building, he just has the ability to almost absorb it and like spit it back out in the game. And you just could feel it tonight. Everybody knew, and you could feel how special it was just to see him be able to come back and play in this game. And it's just, he feels it. He vibes off it. I feel like it's happened more on the road than it even has at home over the last maybe 5 to 7 years. It would happen at Oracle a lot. I feel like it's happened less at Chase for whatever reason, and more on the road. You look at some of his big moments, Boston in the finals, the Sacramento Game 7 where he scored 50 is, I happened to see some highlights of that pop up on a feed last night, actually, and I stopped and watched the 3 minutes of him, basically every bucket in the 50, on that afternoon where, it was one of the most unreal raucous environments with the Kings having not been in the playoffs in, almost 20 years at that point. And the rivalry, at least on one end, it's a rivalry to the people in Sacramento that I know well from growing up there. But it was just, he feels the vibe and absorbs the energy. And again, I think the best way for me to say it is he just kind of spits it back out into the universe with just, awesome play. And I think we saw that tonight.
That's for sure. Can I say 2 quick last things, JD, or do you need to move on?
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
Real quick. I was just going to say, I was disappointed in KP. I know you covered that. I just thought he got badly exposed. Soft on D.
Yeah.
And I feel Melton's been a no-show a little too often for my liking. So curious what you thought on that. And very last point, and I'll let you go, is I really didn't like who Steve Kerr had on the floor for that last possession when they took the lead. I know they were missing KP because he fouled out, but I hated who they had on the floor in the end, and I was curious what you thought of that. Thanks, JD.
Yep, appreciate it, Danny. Thanks for the call there. On Melton, yeah, he's got to play better. I we can give him one. He is somebody that plays better with Steph and with others, but I don't know that there's enough season left maybe for him to stretch it out, to kind of work through whatever and finish strong. But I do think in some ways you can make the case that, is he playing his way off of the Warriors? If he's playing his way into potentially a lower number, if his number's lower, I feel like the Warriors are more apt to be able to keep him, even if they're going to obviously prioritize Porzingis. And I think they are probably going to look to prioritize Porzingis over Melton potentially. It's his shot hasn't been there. He's been more erratic. He's been more turnover prone. The lack of finishing, and he was rough tonight. There's no doubt. Ended up 6 points, -7, 2 of 4. He did have 4 assists, but again, you need Melton to be somebody that's more in that 10 to 15 night range and doing it efficiently to help this team. All right, let's continue on the phone lines. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Let's go to Edward in San Francisco next here on the Sports Leader. Hey, Edward.
Hey, good evening. Just on my way home from the game. Hey, first thing, I think Stephen Curry is a lot more than a basketball player. I think he's an entertainer, and I think he carries himself as a professional of both. But the main reason I call – go ahead.
No, I think you're spot on. I mean, Danny and our last caller said, showman, entertainer, all of that. I mean, without a doubt. And I think there is when we start having those conversations, Edward, about where somebody ranks, it is about numbers and championships and MVPs and all those things and, records. But I do think you get bonus points in those conversations for being a showman and being an entertainer. And you're right. The true greats of the great all have it. That is one thing where I would put Steph above even LeBron in terms of, the style of play and the flair for which he plays. And it's not to say LeBron doesn't have it, but it's just it comes out in a very different, less joyous manner, I think. But yeah, it's the childlike joy, I think, that Steph plays with as well. And then that appreciation of the moment as an entertainer. I think that's well said. But go ahead, continue your point there, Edward.
I was kind of curious if you could help me out here. I don't understand why Kerr doesn't call for more replays and some fouls like tonight, towards the end of the game when they called Drummond Green for a foul when it was clearly a block out,
Yeah, they've had the short answer, Edward. They've had a really bad track record on challenges. They've had, and I think at times they've called for some earlier in the year that didn't go their way, and I think maybe they would go back and reevaluate and think that they shouldn't. And honestly, I think they're snake bit at this point. I think they're overthinking it in some situations. I think Kerr's always looking to the bench. I actually think it's something they got to fix for next year and moving forward if Kerr's going to come back or whatever. But it just feels like, and I know at times, Draymond's also somebody that's calling for challenges, and he doesn't have, or at least hasn't had, the best track record as well. Like, he will do the emotional, like, definitely challenge it, and then you look at it and it's like, oh no, it was definitely a foul or definitely not getting overturned. It's been something that has been a problem for this team this season in particular, and I think at times when you don't have success, it leads you to maybe not challenge others that maybe you should. I actually thought on the play you're talking about, I remember looking at Kerr, looking at the bench adamantly, like demonstratively, like put his hands up, like is it, like what is it? And then he didn't get the answer. Either he got the answer not to do it pretty quickly, or it wasn't quickly enough to where he was like, okay, we're not going to do it because the officials are obviously pressuring the coach to make a decision, or they'll just, they basically can say it's too late. You can't do it if you don't do it within a certain amount of time. So I said I was going to give you a short answer. I ended up giving you a long answer on that, Edward, but it hasn't been their forte this season.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I don't know, just, put them 1 point behind. And to me, if it's just from what we see in the replay, what was your point on that? What's your opinion?
I thought they should not have challenged it. Okay. I thought they should not have challenged in that one in particular. But again, sometimes you never know how things are going to be interpreted by the officials. But no, my 2 cents on that one, I would not have challenged it. And to me, if it's, if you don't get a quick inclination from, and I think it's gotten to the point with Draymond specifically where I think Kerr almost has talked to Draymond and said, hey, I'm not going to listen to you, because again, I think he's been forced into some at different points. And I just don't think Kerr was getting the read from the bench that made it an absolute to where he wanted to do it. So anything else, Edward?
No, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
All right.
Go Warriors, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate the call. Drive safe, and thanks for jumping in and joining the conversation here on the Sports Leader. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. From Edward, we go to Reggie in Vallejo, who's up next here. Warriors lose tonight, 117-116 to the Rockets. Steph returns, and he was spectacular in his 26 minutes, scoring 29 points. And making Chase Center the House of Thrills a little bit tonight. What's on your mind, Reggie?
Hey, what's up, JD? It's been a minute since I called in, but I remember you joking about you and Kyle were talking on Dubs OT about him coming back on Easter. About this,
well, that still fits. That's still appropriate.
Yeah, right. And I was like, oh my goodness, after 27 games off, he does that. It's my biggest point tonight, JD, I wanted to make was I hope this is a slap in the face to Joe Lacob and the front office for not going all in on him. I mean, you missed 27 games of just, Steph Curry, and you get this tonight. I mean, the NBA is a better product when Steph is playing. And, we don't know how much longer he has left in the league, good years, so to say. And, I just wanted to also just bring up the two timelines that Lacob tried to accomplish during Steph's, playoff runs and his championship years, and going back all the way to 22. And unfortunately, I think we can say it's done now, especially with Moody having to basically reconstruct his knee for who knows how long this rehab will be. But yeah, JD, I just, I hope this is a slap in the face to Joe Lacob. And obviously, they're probably going to have a maybe, 11 to 15 pick in the draft next year. I know you were talking about that in Just Dubs earlier this weekend, but I'm on kind of the side where if it's the 15th pick, I think you trade it, just because I don't think Steph and the rest of the vets want to wait around and, watch another guy have to grow, and it becomes a Jonathan Kuminga situation where half of the fan base is like, well, you got to play this guy. And, the vets are on the court with this kid, and they're like, man, he's not NBA ready yet. He can't produce and help us out in big games. Like tonight, obviously I love seeing Steph, but God, they need another guy. And, I wanted to see Porzingis, Draymond, and Steph share the floor in a clutch game like this, just to, get a little bit of a taste for next season if Porzingis comes back. But yeah, he got exposed tonight. I think you said that, but yeah, just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that. And I have another point, but yeah, I want to see.
On Porzingis specifically. And I mean, what was the other part on Porzingis? I mean, I just thought, look, the Rockets play physically, and I thought he looked a little soft tonight, which we talked about. And I don't know, on paper, we're learning, right? We don't, there's one thing to watch him play with Boston or watch him play throughout the course of his career. And Boston's built differently than the Warriors. Like Boston's built, I think, to, go man up with a lot of the athletes that the Rockets have better throughout their roster than the Warriors are. The Warriors have had to kind of beat the Rockets over the years with skill and guile and patience and, those kinds and frustrating them, right? Like having to, kind of make them do stupid stuff to in key moments, and their lack of offense and that kind of thing, kind of expose their lack of offense, which is different with KD. They have a guy obviously that they can go to now that can kind of bail them out, and that takes some of the heat off of Sengun. So I it was a disappointing, I thought, night for Porzingis with all of the fouling and again looking a little bit soft and not up for the challenge of a team that really wants to beat the crap out of you like the Rockets do. And so it's, I don't think it's necessarily the end all be all, but you kind of file it away. And then what real quick was the other thing you wanted me to comment on? I caught the Porzingis part, but was there one other thing real quick before you?
Yeah, no, I was just talking about the draft pick for next year. What they're going to do with that and kind of just like moving forward. I mean, it's, Steph looked like he's back and, he looks great, but next year we're still going to be waiting on Jimmy, waiting on Moody. We're kind of going to see who we're even going to re-sign back in terms of getting like Melton or Porzingis. And, then we have this draft pick. So I feel like the front office they've got to do something, right? They've got it. Mike Dunleavy is probably, this is fine as hour.
Yeah, real quick, Reggie. It's funny. I had said, if it's the 15th pick or 15th pick is if the Warriors end up making the playoffs, so they have to win the two play-in games to obviously have it be as deep as 15. It's right. The most likely scenario. Most likely scenario is it winds up 11, right? Like I don't have the exact percentage, but the most likely scenario is the Warriors lose one of the play-in games, and then they get it. They end up with the 11th slot. They'd have a 10% chance to move up, but they'd have a 90% chance of getting 11. So most likely the most likely number they wind up with is the 11th pick. And I don't think there's anybody. I think they're in a tough spot at 11 because there isn't going to be obviously any of the star power guys that are in the top 3 to 5. But I also think there's some other guys like Yaxel from Michigan and maybe the kid from UConn. Like I think they're in a unique spot where Mullins, the guy from UConn, like we're gonna watch him play tomorrow night. But they're in a unique spot where I could see those guys going in front of even where the Warriors end up picking. And so at that point, it's like, are you going to be drafting another project? And I don't think you can draft another project. But it's funny. I had said if it's 15, I'd look to trade it. And somebody kind of reached out to me and said, well, if it's 15, then it's easier to basically be able to take somebody that's more of a lower ceiling, can play now type of a player than, let's say, if they had the top 4 pick or they even had the 11th pick. Like you'd be more tantalized by maybe some of those other guys than if it was 15. Just kind of like, kind of had me thinking a little bit differently about it. But I think they have to be open-minded to look at the value of the pick, Reggie, and scour the league for what kind of player they can acquire. And then they have to do the due diligence to say, does player X that we can trade for help us more next year than the 5 years basically that you'd have the ability to have them under contract, but with the ability to contribute next year as well. Like you have to, because if you can find somebody that you think can contribute next year or in the next couple, but also has a higher ceiling, then you kind of have to do it, but there has to be the next year component to it. Otherwise, I think you have to look to move the pick. And I think the truth is, and I've said this kind of jokingly, like, I think like part of why Steph wants to come back and play to finish this thing is to make the statement, kind of like I was on Just Dubs yesterday. Next year starts now. And I'm going to show you that I'm still great and we can still be good, and we're not that far away. So for Christ's sake, I shouldn't say that on Easter, like make a move to help next year and make one more run at this thing.
And Jay, and like that's my frustration you've covered Steph for so long. And I mean, I've been a Warriors fan all my life, and just seeing you and Kyle brought up the Steph and Draymond. They don't want to leave the franchise how they found. They want to leave it in a better place. Like before Steph, this thing was garbage. I mean,
they were the Kings. They were the Kings.
They were the
Warriors
and
the Kings. The Warriors and Kings were half brothers, man. Like they're
exactly. And to me, it's just like Joe Lacob, man. Like you got to go all in on the greatest shooter that God has ever created. And
not only that, but a top 5 player of all time. It's not even the shooter anymore.
Thank you.
It's
not even a shooter, JD. I'm just putting that out there because the greatest of all time debate has been so subjective to the position of the point guard, right? I mean,
right.
You got Magic Johnson, you've got all these greats, John Stockton. Those are true point guards, but Steph, I mean, we're all Warriors fans here, but come on, he's better than Magic at this point, JD. I just got to put that out there to the chat and to anybody listening, and they can come at me at that. They can come down my road, and I've got a whole list of all the things that Steph has done to impact the game. The game has literally changed because of Steph Curry. Like, the position of the point guard has also changed. And I know I'm taking up a lot of time, Jay, but like, I really just hope, back to my point about what they do with the draft pick, I don't want the Warriors to be a move away from another move away, if you know what I mean. Because that's kind of been – that's where they've been. That's where they've been since 22. I mean, they find guys like Dante DiVincenzo, or Otto Porter, Belicha, all these guys that you and Kyle were talking about. But to be honest, they've got way too many of these quote-unquote connector guys, and a team full of connectors will be 18-50 or something like that. Like what we're seeing in these past 27 games, they are garbage without anybody who cannot score the ball. But yeah, I'm sorry, I'm taking up a lot of time, Jay. So I appreciate you, my
Reggie,
brother.
I'm giving you the room, man. Have a good night. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you again here soon, brother. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627, the number to jump in and join the conversation. It is Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. A lot of great calls, man. Appreciate the calls. Kyle, where are we at? I know we're doing a blast. We've blasted out here. Can we go a little more? Do we need? I mean, you tell me the rules. All right, let's go like 5 more. All right, so back to the chat. And again, 808 KNBR if you want to jump in on the phone lines. Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line is open as well. We'll get to some text messages. Let's get back to the chat. Again, we've been waiting for this night for 2 months. So we're just I'm going rogue. We're not taking, Holder's not listening. He's not listening. But we're not going to no spot violations. No spot violation. I've been taking all my breaks for the last 2 months, and then some. Official Dr. P. Rockets were unusually extra humble after the game. They knew they were outplayed. Well, they were outplayed by Steph, that's for sure. Yeah, and it's funny. As competitors, like you see the Rockets guys, Ahmed Thompson. I mean, Ahmed Thompson went over and gave Steph a hug, like at the first time out when Steph came in to the game and was going down to set up. The Warriors were bringing the ball up. Or maybe the Rockets were bringing the ball up. No, the Warriors were bringing the ball up, and Ahmed Thompson was guarding Steph, I think, on that first possession, and he went and dapped him up. There was a lot of love for Steph tonight, pregame, during the game, all of that. Like, you could say what you want about the Rockets, and obviously they've been a rival in many different iterations of the Warriors. The Rockets, we can quibble about how they've played against Steph in terms of the physicality and all that. The Rockets respect the hell out of Steph Curry. Like, I don't think that's even debatable, and KD does, and all those guys. So, all right, let's keep it rolling here. If Curry made the game winner to beat Houston, the Bay Area would have been unhinged all night. 100%, man. That was, I mean, as that shot was going up, it looked like it wasn't going to go in. I was behind, kind of on the corner behind that basket. So when the shot went up, it was. Sometimes you can just tell, all right, that shot's not going in. And when it went up, I could tell it wasn't probably going in. But man, you're thinking as he lets it go initially, you're like, wow, this would be an unbelievable moment. Like, it would almost be in a weird way. And again, the game doesn't really truly matter in the standings as it relates for the Warriors, because they're going to be 10th in the West. But it felt like almost a signature moment in a weird way of Steph's career to like show in the regular season, to just show his value and the importance of, oh my God, it's been so bleak for these last 2 months. And then he comes back and makes that level of an impact, and then wins the freaking game as they pull it away in the closing 6 minutes from down 13. I mean, it would have been absolutely, especially considering, it was a rough weekend for the Gyros, rough weekend for the Giants. The Sharks have been playing great, but you got beat last night by Nashville in a game that puts them in a tougher spot for the playoff race. And so, yeah, I mean, it just would have been a feel-good moment. It just would have been a feel-good moment, to be sure. Andis Brown, yeah, Pods played well, but messed up the last play. He was supposed to run a double drag screen, and Sengun switched on to Steph. Steph ended up just getting doubled and a tough shot. No question. And that is the one thing I am gonna watch back during the break here. But no, you're right. And Draymond was letting Pods know about it in terms of that. And look, that's what Steve Kerr was talking about in terms of, guys having to learn how to play with Steph and do things completely differently. Pods would have been somebody that maybe in a non-Steph universe would have been getting the shot. But here's the one thing. Brandon Podziemski should not be screwing up the play. Like that, like as a guy that's like, a high IQ player, right? Smart play. Like, he's somebody that part of the reason you play Brandon Podziemski is intangibles and smarts and going to do the right thing in the right situation, even if he isn't going to necessarily make the shot. So to be perfectly honest, you kind of can't have that from Podziemski. He is still a young player. He is growing, but he's, and again, it's not something that it ruins what would have been a special moment for this season. It isn't something that necessarily ruins the season. So he's got to be able to take stock of that and use it as a learning experience and be able to not mess up the last play when he gets another opportunity to be on the floor there. Because I'll be honest, there were some groans when Pat Spencer came out with about 3.5 minutes to go and Pods went in. There were some audible groans in the crowd, like, Pat's been playing. And Pat had played the whole quarter to that point. So, is Pat going to play 12 straight minutes? Probably not. And to your point, Andis, Pods hadn't played badly necessarily. But being better in the big moments is what he's going to have to do as somebody that's, if he's going to be somebody that's truly going to be trusted to be on the floor in the big moments. Let's keep it rolling here. Pods was waiting for the pass from Steph to end the game. You'll see it when you watch the tape, JD. Well, I'm going to watch the tape here coming up because we are going to take a timeout right now. Kyle said 5 minutes. We've gone 5 minutes. We want to do one more, Kyle? We're going to watch the tape. One more, and then I'll watch the tape. The one play I've been waiting all season for, Steph and Seth to play together. And what happens? Seth catches a pass off his leg and causes a turnover. I know that is a fact. I had texted our guy Austin on the digital team. I said, "Oh, Steph and Seth," and before I could even get the text out, the ball was getting kicked off of the leg for a turnover. I wanted to unsend it at that point. But yeah, and as Max says, Pat, Steph, Dre, and Seth, the only positive plus minus. All right, let's take that timeout. 808 KNBR, 415 808 5627. If I go another 35 seconds, though, Kyle, I shouldn't admit to this, but we'll reach the 1 hour mark. We're going to reach the 1 hour mark. It's like we're like a.
I feel like it's a milestone,
Yeah. Bing bong. It's, 14 past the hour. We're going commercial free here on Dubs OT. Like if we were a rock station. Overnight Dave knows what I'm talking about. I'll bet Overnight Dave was a hell of a rock DJ back in the day. All right, we've reached the point where we're not going to lose the license, but 1 hour commercial free right here. Dubs OT on the leader.
Dub Nation, this is the real and inside story on Warriors basketball. Dubs OT with John Dickinson continues. Streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
Good job by Easton to force Porzingis to the outside. Curry, pump, feed. It's Melton on the drive. Had it stripped, got it back. 3 to shoot. Deep one for Curry. Oh, yeah! He's back! Had a nice little look at his former teammate Kevin Durant as well, Noah.
Yeah, the film is not good. Film is not good on the final. I know that's not the play that we played coming in. It was a great night for Steph Curry, but the film on the final play, not good. Warriors lose 117-116 to the Houston Rockets. We're back here, 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. The Warriors lose to the Rockets by a single point. And I'm looking at I'm bringing it back right now as the Warriors wind up losing the game. And yeah, it's not good. Draymond is clearly like telling Pods, come over, we're going to set a double screen. And Pods just either didn't know the play or forgot the play, or I mean, I don't know what was going on. And Draymond, like, to the point, like, Draymond's kind of like motioning to him, like, come on, like, you're doing the wrong thing. And then Draymond's like, well, I got to go do the right thing. And yeah, it's all bad. It ended up being kind of a prayer on it. But yeah, it was supposed to be. And again, here's the thing. I'm going to put this on Kerr in the sense that you could have called a timeout. You could have maybe changed the lineup a little bit in terms of who was going to be on the court at that point. But yeah, I'm watching Steph, and it is. I mean, Pods just kind of fans out to the wing, and it's almost as if, you know, as people pointed out, like he was just kind of waiting for the pass off the double, and that maybe he would get it kicked to him, even though the double was, not good. The double was there, as not good, Kyle. In his mind, probably waiting for the kick to shoot it. Yeah, exactly, Gene. That's exactly what I'm looking at. That's exactly what I was thinking there. I'm just watching. Apologies here as we welcome you back, Dubs OT with JD. I'm just watching it kind of repeatedly here, and I'm just thinking. I mean, Draymond Draymond puts his arms up, like looking at Pods, like, dude, like you're not running the play. And then Draymond's like, well, I got to run the play. So, yeah, and I think Guy is probably the right answer in that spot, because Guy's also somebody that's, I think, more of a, like, you'd feel more comfortable if the ball got kicked to Guy, that Guy could make an open three off the pass like that, or drive. Again, you're only down one in that moment, so he could look to drive it. As well. And again, I think the Warriors, again, I said it, I think the Warriors should have called a timeout. And yes, it was not Guy's best night tonight. Guy, I thought at times tonight, looked a little soft, especially around the basket with the inability to finish. But he did end up with 15 points. But yeah, a lot of misses on the interior for Guy Santos. But yeah, to me, you call a timeout when you're down by one, because all you need is a foul at that point. Like, you get something going to the basket, or something where you set up like you're going to take a three, and then they overcommit and you can drive for a two, when basically a foul will potentially give you the win. So I think that's something else that could have been. But yeah, I think that's not great. Rolda Woodruff, JD. What if they already had the play drawn up the last time out, since once Houston had scored? Yeah, that's fair. I think that's fair. I think I still would have made sure everybody was on the same page. I would have made sure everybody was on the same page, and made sure you had everybody in the game that you wanted to have in the game. Again, and I understand the thought process of the scramble type situation where you don't want to give Ime Udoka and his staff 3 minutes basically to be like, if they do this, we do this. If they do that, we do this. If we do that, they do that. Like I totally understand the thought process on that, and I even agree with Andis. I'm sure they didn't want Jabari switched on to Steph, and having Amen coming over to double, no question. So it definitely ended up, and it certainly leads to. Pods kind of playing. But again, you can't. Here's the one thing I will say. If Pods blatantly screwed up the play, now we don't know the backstory on that, and I'm not sure, Kyle, if it was discussed in the post-game press conference as well. I don't necessarily think it was. But if Pods, we should not assume that Pods intentionally didn't run the right play because he was hoping Steph would kick it to him and he could be the hero. Like maybe that is what happened. Maybe it's not what happened. But again, we don't know. I think the one thing you have to think about is that either Pods didn't get the call right, or didn't hear what the call was right, or was running the wrong play, or I don't know.
Actually, okay, so we
ahead,
do
Kyle.
have some post-game sound on Curry kind of describing what he saw on the final play. I haven't listened to it, so I don't know if he's.
Well, let's play that. Let's play
that.
Let's just play that. Because I think sometimes you can tell by hearing the way people answer questions about something that aren't the obvious.
Yeah, we didn't have a play call because we thought we were going to get a stop, but the usual kind of reaction there is to try to get, they had Sengun out there, was to try to get him in a pick and roll and see what they were going to do, but everything kind of got a little stagnant at the top of the key. I haven't watched the possession to see where there might have been a better option, but it seemed like there was a wall at the three-point line, and I couldn't figure out exactly where to go. But there's no regrets. There's, you like the matchup with, their lineup out there, thinking that you can get a good shot with whatever it was, 11, 12 seconds left. So, tough finish for sure. But proud of the way we fought down the stretch.
Yeah, and it was going to be tough for Steph in that spot to be able to drive too, as I kind of watch it back. But yeah, I mean, clearly Draymond and Pods were not on it. Clearly Draymond thought they were going to come set a double. And then Pods didn't, and then Draymond is motioning to Pods after, like, hey man, we were going to run a double. And you can tell in the lead up to the play with Draymond, he's looking at Pods, who's not, like, he kind of puts his arms up. So I regardless, again, you didn't need a three. Obviously you had to take the three because everything stagnated, as Steph pointed out, but not great. And the one thing, again, while we shouldn't assume that Pods screwed up the play, and Steph said there wasn't an actual, like, formal play called, although, again, I think Draymond was trying to tell Pods what to do in that situation. But I think we the one thing that I do think rings true, and is saying, I think Dre wanted that switch to Sengun, and I think Pods didn't read it right. I think you nailed it. I think that's exactly – I think that's exactly what it was. Again, watching it one more time, coming down here. Yeah, Sengun's on Pods, and that's exactly right. He wanted, if Pods comes over, then he brings Sengun into the switch, and that would have been a more favorable matchup there. So. Anyway, like I said, I don't think we should necessarily assume it's main character syndrome, but you're right. It is a lot of the Warriors' offense in those situations is reads and kind of knowing who's guarding you, and knowing the hot hand is obviously Curry, given the night that he was having. And so you just kind of roll with it at that point. But the one thing I will file away here, Kyle, is it's that conversation that I've mentioned a few different times about they got to figure out truly how much they trust Pods to be a part of the solution for next year. And do guys like playing with him? And is it a youthful lack of understanding of what needs to be done? Or is it main character syndrome? Or is it, like, we shouldn't discount or dismissively, think that it is this or that. But they're going to have to do an internal dialogue in terms of, like, do guys like playing with him? The value that he brings, with certain lineups and certain groups versus what they're obviously going to have to pay him because he's going to be up for a contract extension. So, and I think obviously, yeah, Dr. P, I want winners. Too much, 89-36. I don't trust him. Sorry. Those are going to have to be, I think, conversation. If Steph passes Pods the ball, I think we would have won the game. Kind of obvious. Okay. And was EB the one saying, hey, when you get the double, you make the pass? Also, which, typically that's the case as well. So, all right. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627, the number to jump in to join and join the conversation. Gene, I don't see Pods and Zingis playing well together, at least not yet. No, they've had a couple of different exchanges where Porzingis has been physically, he's been visibly rather, frustrated and demonstrative at Pods not kicking him the ball in a couple of different situations. So let's do a couple of more chats, and then Kyle, we'll do our Sounds at Dubs OT in segment here. So let's do like 4 or 5 more from the chat. No cap. This is what Steph gets and the organization. I love it. Being selfish. Should have sat out till next season. Happy about the L. Embrace the tank. Well, again, you can be happy about the L, no cap, but I'm going to say it, and we can agree to disagree, and that's fine. I still love you, but to me, the win doesn't matter at this point because they're going to be 10th, and we'll see what happens. But I think we saw the case tonight for Steph coming back and the impact that he has. And look, I understand completely if there are a bunch of Warrior fans that don't see the benefit in this team making the playoffs. Like, I can understand and respect that at every level, but I don't know how anybody could watch the way things played out tonight with the Warriors and think that the Warriors were worse off for having Steph Curry put out the performance that he did in this game to nearly lead the Warriors to what would have been a miraculous victory. So, I can't believe, honestly, no cap. I love you, man, but I can't believe that. This is what Steph gets and the organization basically for letting him play. That I think that is, I don't know, man. I think that is completely unfair. Let's roll through. JMU KP has been a pretty poor as a center. He's good in pick and pop, that power forward. Well, he's not really playing power forward. I don't think he's ever really playing power forward. It's just more spots on the court. If he's out there, he's the center. It's just, interchangeable in terms of how the Warriors use him in terms of some of the plays that he wants. But I guess you're saying more down in the paint as opposed to the pick and pop. I think he's been pretty good at the mid post area as well, where he kind of can look to turn and shoot over others as well there. Kyle chiming in, different Kyle McKiernan. It's a feel good, nothing more or less. Steph made the team better, but they aren't doing it. Well, and again, in some ways, like if you're embrace the tank, like you were entertained at the level that you'd want to be entertained, and then they still didn't win. So nothing's harmed. Again, they're not going to up their standing from 10 any farther. And so, we'll see what happens next week when they play the Clippers or the Blazers or whoever else. Let's keep it rolling. Fozzie, this game lets me know that nobody wants to see the Warriors in the playoffs. Yeah, it lets me know that nobody wants to see the Warriors in the play-in. I'll say that. I think Portland and Phoenix and the Clippers are all beatable teams. That is without question. They are all extremely beatable teams. And so I know people are kind of rooting for or against whatever X, Y, and Z. Robert Brown, just be happy Porzingis is playing at this point. I think that's a fair point as well. Without a doubt. And again, he played tonight. He's played every game except for the back-to-backs. He's missed one end of the back-to-backs here now for a full month over the last 28 days here. Estimated eyes, this team is trouble when Jimmy comes back for real. Well, it's when Jimmy comes back, and then what do they do? It kind of gets into that point as it relates to can they add somebody? Do they keep Porzingis? Is Melton around? All of those things sort of have to be factored in. But, yeah, I mean, tonight is a vote for that, to be sure, as it relates to next season. I mean, I was thinking that. But, again, you got to get to the point where you're in the middle of next year and you're in a position where you making a little noise when everybody's back actually matters for something. And you can't do that if you're 6 under, which is what they are right now, in the middle of the season. That's the tough part. JD, is it too early to say who won the Zingis trade? Yeah, I didn't declare it. But to me, it's more about, I was jokingly, I think, declaring it earlier, but I mean, Kuminga's had a handful of good. I mean, Porzingis has had more good games with the Hawks than Kuminga had, or with the Warriors than Porzingis has with the timeout. Porzingis has had more good games with the Warriors than Kuminga has with the Hawks. So that is without question. But Atlanta's got a lot of really good young players, and Atlanta's playing well, independent of Kuminga. With Kuminga, without Kuminga, whether Kuminga plays a lot, whether Kuminga plays well, like Atlanta's just winning because they got rid of Trae Young and have a lot of young good players that they really like. I didn't see a KP Steph pick and roll at all tonight. It was interesting. Steve Kerr before the game said that those two hadn't actually been able to practice together at all yet. Like Steph had been going through his return to play protocol, and when they ran through different lineup combinations, because Steph was going to be coming off the bench, that Steph and Porzingis hadn't really played together in any of the scrimmaging that they had been able to do, or any of their kind of walkthrough stuff in preparation for the game. So I think that's still going to be kind of a work in progress, but I do think, Max, that's going to be a play that definitely can work for the Warriors as well moving forward. All right, let's do one more, and then we'll do a quick installment of our Sounds at Dubs OT, and then it is a holiday, so we do have to get out of here right about at the 90-minute mark tonight here from Harmonic in Thrive City, although as our buddy said, we go until the off sign is turned off, or the open sign is turned off here at Harmonic in Thrive City. Steph does make them better, Diggum writes. Warriors are way more entertaining with them than without them. And again, isn't that in some ways all that matters over the last week to 2.5 that maybe we have left here of this season, assuming obviously he doesn't get hurt? But I'm with you, Diggum. The last part is the most important part. They really got to get him some help, though, a lot of help. And, again, I think it's bring Porzingis back, try to bring Melton back. If you're going to wait on Jimmy, you still need one more guy that you can kind of fold into that mix. All right, we'll get to a few more chats here to close things out, but let's get to our Sounds at Dubs OT here on this Sunday night.
KNBR presents the Sounds of Dubs OT.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
No class, no balls.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court.
Now here's John Dickinson.
All right, we're going to cut to the chase here. We're going to skip the pregame cut, Kyle. We'll roll right to the postgame. We'll hear a couple from Steph, and we'll hear one from Steve Kerr, and then we'll get back to the chat and call it a night here from Harmonic in Thrive City. All right, let's get Steph first here. Didn't look rusty tonight. Is there any rust that Steph's going to have to knock off here moving forward?
It's not as much rust as it's the endurance. Honestly, you kind of picking and choosing a little bit of your spots to maintain. It's not like you're going 100 miles an hour the whole time and just feeling it out. But, after I traveled and got my shot blocked the first 2 possessions, I kind of settled in nice. You do all the training and scrimmages and all that type of stuff. It's more just getting back familiar with the speed of the game, the physicality, and just embracing it. And that's how the game kind of, unfolded for me.
Yeah, and I thought maybe that was more what I had seen in that third quarter, where Steph was, if anything, maybe he looked a little tired in terms of his running and getting back down the court in that particular stretch. He looked great in the fourth quarter. I thought he looked great in the first half. And again, he wasn't limping or anything like that. But I think he was trying to find maybe trying to find his wind a little bit in that third of the four stretches that he found himself out there for. Let's hear another one. This goes to what we were just talking about, which is not really any Curry pick and roll or pick and pop. A big part of this final week, plus whatever in the play-in, was supposed to be, let's see how Curry and Porzingis can do playing together. So he was asked about the chemistry between those two and their first time playing together.
I thought we have a lot more to prove out there. You know, I know he was in foul trouble all night, but there were a couple of possessions. They tried to blitz me, you know, get somebody in the pocket, KP's space on the floor. Defense has to make a decision. So more of those reps will be great for not just me and him, but for all of us to continue to build chemistry. Like I said, he had foul trouble, so there wasn't much of a rhythm for him tonight. But that group that we had down the stretch, it felt like old times, just, you know, reading the defense. They react to me on the perimeter. GP's going to the bucket. Draymond's finding guys, getting guys in the pocket. It was awesome. Tough finish, obviously, but I like the way that we finished the game.
Yeah, so, and again, to be able to make that run from down 13, to be able to finish the game on that front. And a good point on the foul trouble. I mean, they weren't able to necessarily be out there and work through anything because, especially in the second half, Porzingis found himself in foul trouble. All right, let's hear one more from Steve on Steph and just the impact that he had overall. I mean, we could all see it, but what was the head coach's view?
Yeah, and I don't think there's a tougher defender in the league for him to have his first game against than Ahmed Thompson. So that's quite a test. Steph looked amazing. He's worked really hard for this. You can see, you know, it doesn't take much for him to find his rhythm, and his rhythm is also our rhythm. All the off-ball stuff that we get as a result of, you know, his movement. We got a lot of easy layups. Gary got layups, a big one near the end based on, you know, the attention to Steph. So he changes everything.
Yeah, and that was also, you know, Bassey. The Bassey gets the bucket on the first one based on the gravity. They were getting paint, they were getting cutters, and everybody kind of learning to be able to play with Steph on that front. All right, that's our sounds at Dubs OT. Tonight, let's go ahead and roll through here a few more chats as we wrap things up here. Final couple of minutes. Again, we're going to be back on Tuesday on YouTube. I'm going to be back with Greg Silver tomorrow, so make sure you're watching and listening on YouTube 10 until 2 tomorrow on the Sports Leader. We're going to be breaking down this game, the Rough Giants weekend, all of those things between 10 until 2 tomorrow here in the Leader. Robert Brown, guys, will definitely be resting even more these next few. I think they're going to play it out Tuesday and Thursday. I think they're probably going to rest the game in Sacramento on Friday, and then we'll see a week from tonight whether that game against the Clippers matters. I think the game against the Clippers could be a glorified preseason game. And then, assuming arena availability and everything holds up, the play-in for the Warriors is likely Wednesday the 15th, and then the second one would be Friday the 17th. And if they win them both, they're probably having a quick turnaround to play in OKC on Sunday. What would that be? The 19th, 2 weeks from today, and maybe even an afternoon game. Memphis last year played a late Friday game, won, and then had to play the early game on what was Easter Sunday last year. Binary, we wasted 3 or 4 years of Steph's career trying to develop guys like JK. It's a damn shame. Man, tonight is one of those nights that really makes you think thrice about all of that, to be sure. At least it was watchable. There it is. At least it was watchable. I think that's the takeaway from tonight. At least it was watchable. After the last 2 months, Millboy 86, favorite loss of the season. You were entertained, and if you're one of those that says embrace the tank, they lost. See, again, they could lose in the play-in anyway, even with Steph back into the equation. To me, the entertainment was the most important part. All right, let's do a couple of more, 3 more, Kyle, and then we'll call it a night here. Chef Curry, still the best show in sports. Nobody can disagree with that. From Pete. Next up, JMU 22. Our finals is that second play-in game. Well, the first Both of them. All right, last one. Call it a night on this one.
Now, time for the Dubs OT comment of the night.
Dr. P, imagine they take out Flopahoma City. That would make the Doctors' year. Well, we shall see. First, you got to get there, and the Warriors' ability to get there will be determined by obviously what they do next week on Wednesday and potentially Friday. All right, that's going to do it. Big thanks to everybody out here at Harmonic. Big thanks to Kyle and Overnight Dave and Danny Dunn and everybody in the Daly City studios. We'll talk to you tomorrow, 10 a.m. until 2, and then back here at Harmonic Tuesday night after the Warriors take on the Sacramento Kings. Thanks to everybody for joining us. And again, keep it locked right here. Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader. Good night.
Good job by East in the fourth. Porzingis to the outside. Curry, pump, feed. It's Melton on the drive. Had it stripped. Got it back.